Hey guys, this is Tyler here. It is December and right after Christmas here in Talon. And I'm going to discuss a topic here that's mostly for younger guys. And this is about education. People have asked me about education and should they go to university. And this is for people, for guys especially, who might be interested in pursuing a postgraduate degree, a master's degree, and should they do it as a MGTOW guy. And I have spoken about education before, and like anything else, I would first say it's all circumstantial. There's not one size that fits all. Every guy is in a different position and situation, and also they have different skill sets and areas of expertise. Now, some basics though, if like in general, if you're interested in doing a graduate or master's program, of course, people who are in medicine, law, certain areas of engineering or science, that absolutely require it to be in that area. In most countries, there are fields where you absolutely need this education. And yes, in this situation, absolutely, go through the education, through the degree. Now, unfortunately, though, if you are from a Western country like the US or Canada, where education can be extremely expensive, and if you're interested, for example, in being a doctor or being a surgeon, but you're very hesitant because of the large student loans, and you're not sure you'd want to stay in the U.S., maybe you want to practice medicine in a different country, perhaps consider just going straight away to that other country and begin education there. Because I think in some European countries, for example, you can go to like Germany and study medicine, and in some of the countries, their programs will be transferable to other countries. You may need to get like a special license to practice in a different country, but in some cases you can transfer that program even if you don't intend to stay in that country. And in some of the countries, very reputable in these fields, you'll be able to get an education and practical experience that you can apply in other places. That's an option for guys, say, who are from the U.S. or Canada that want to be like a surgeon, but they don't see their prospects in the U.S. or Canada. Also remember, though, that in some countries, often the countries that are very best in certain fields, like medicine, may be like in Western or countries that aren't the most comfortable from the social angle. These will be the countries that offer maybe the most potential. So it's a tricky situation here. But just remember that in some of these areas, I mean, these are very high demand skills, and you can go to other countries and do it. You just may not be paid as well. If you're like in a science field, like if you're in, maybe you're a biochemist, researcher, an advanced area of physics or something. Physics is a very common baseline area for people in many professions. In the science area, in this area too, this would even be better. You could look at doing a program in a foreign country. You could look at maybe in Europe or in Asia if you're from North America. Also, if you are from North America, though, first see if you can get any scholarships or grants in the country, like the US or Canada, because if you do some kind of internship, or if you're doing you're working as a professor at the university and for undergraduate students, they'll sometimes compensate your tuition or part of it, or even some companies will. In the company that I used to work for at UPS, I was able to pursue up to $24,000 worth of graduate education. I would have been able to pay for most of a degree, in fact, in a master's program that was approved if I was working for the company at the time full time. And the only thing, though, the stipulation was that I needed to stay there. Once I finished the program, it was either 3 or 5 years. I can't recall. I think it was 5 years. Otherwise, I would have to have paid all the tuition back, all the compensation. It would have been a lot of money to pay back. And for me, I didn't feel comfortable enough. This was about 3 or 4 years ago, when I was really considering it at the time. And I just ended up deciding I wasn't confident enough that I would stay with the company that long and then have to pay it all back. And so not many companies do that. That's a very rare case nowadays. But in my case, it was an option, especially if I were to have pursue like a STEM degree, master's degree. For people though, North America, Canada, look into like scholarships or grants, and there may be an option out there. Just understand though, in general for MGTOW guys, that it's all depends on your situation. If you're someone that really exceeds in your field, if you really stand out and you're wanting to continue to pursue this area, and you are at the forefront of this area, yeah, I mean, it may be worth it to pay the cost, because if you can't be in this field without that specialty, yeah, you should do it. Because if you picture yourself in this field for like 40 years or something, it's worth it. You go ahead and do it. If you have a lot of doubts and you're skeptical about an area, especially if it's like in a either non-STEM area or it's not like absolutely required, I would think about it. Maybe give it some time. And because once you go down that path, especially like in a Western country, it's a lot of money. It's very expensive often. And also the time commitment, the mental focus, concentration has to be then in the education. You can't be like pursuing other areas. Now, for guys that come from less expensive countries for studies, yeah, I mean, you could absolutely pursue it, but remember that no matter what, you're giving up time and focus and attention to that area. You're not able to focus this energy into other areas that may be more productive long term. But like I said, if you're a guy that sees yourself in like hard sciences and you need the specialty, or even in law, yeah, you should go ahead and do it and get the certification you need so that you can pursue it. Because not every guy is going to be, say, like an entrepreneur, or they're not going to be some kind of business guy. And truthfully, this is my feeling on it. Look at a lot of the micro cap companies nowadays, pharma companies. I invest in the stock market, and look at how many of these companies, if you go down the list, many people from like hard science areas, whether they're like, they can be medical doctors, they can be PhDs, say in biotechnology, and different specialties of science. And you'd be amazed at how many guys that have become very wealthy through these pharma companies come from medical specialty areas. So don't think that just because you pursue this area, oh, there's many possibilities, especially nowadays with the science age that we live in technology and medicine. I often would actually argue and say guys in this field would have more potential, because I think there's a lot more demand for those skills than, like, say, someone with business skills or marketing skills. You can't train someone in like biochemistry. That takes a lot of years of formation, and then to actually have the applied skills when it comes to like a pharmaceutical product, you're talking a lot of specialization here, and that's not something you can create overnight. In your case, you're going to be a lot more sought after than the guy who has like the marketing background or something. There's different ways to look at this. It's the same thing in some legal areas. There's actually legal experts that have backgrounds in medicine. I don't recall what the name of this legal area is. This takes a lot of background. This takes a lot of years of study and experience. Very central area though for many companies nowadays. And even if you're independent, there's a lot of demand for this kind of person. Companies require this kind of legal expertise, very high paid area. This is just an example here. So don't think that just, yeah, you will have the upfront expense of like these hard degrees, hard programs, but often over time they can be well worth it. And I think there'll be a high demand for these kind of areas, and you just have to remember it's an upfront investment. For guys so that are like in less hard science areas, less real technical areas, it's really up to you. I mean, if it's to get like residency, to get a document, it can definitely be worth it. Because for some guys, it's necessary. I've spoken about this. It can be the cheapest way to get like a residency document in a country. Getting a master's degree may cost you like $2,000 or $3,000 a year, or 2,000 or 3,000 euros. That's probably going to be cheaper than almost any kind of business residency document. and that's a master's program for you. In this case, it would be kind of a win-win situation, because you could potentially get the degree, and you would also be given a residency document in that country. And for guys that want to migrate to leave their countries, especially right now, Russia is an example. My brother's a student in Russia, and he's doing a master's program in a science program, and this is actually how he was given a residency document. This is probably the same for other guys. Much easier, like in Russia, to get a residency document this way than to do it through like a business or through investment. It also much cheaper. In other examples in Serbia, same thing. If you're a guy that's pursuing like a humanities or a degree like in sociology or something, liberal arts, probably not. This is not usually as essential, especially if you're just intending to stay in your home country and you don't need it to work in a certain field per se, and especially if it doesn't pay that well. Probably not worth it. You'd be better off not doing it and just focusing on developing your skill sets here. And also, think of foreign language. If you're going to a foreign country, maybe it's more essential to focus on spending that time learning a foreign language, especially if you intend to leave the country you're currently living, rather than put the time and focus into a degree. Or if you are pursuing a program in a foreign country, you could also do a master's program in a foreign language, because foreign language is generally always going to be useful no matter what the case is, and this would be kind of a win-win situation. Like I said before, it all depends on the person, the situation. In some cases it works, in others not. You just got to figure it out for yourself. Give me your feedback below, and thank you.